What is good? It's your boy Slim Trader. We're back at it again with another weekend analysis. We're going to start with the usual USD JPY. We'll jump to GBP USD, then GBP JPY. We'll do gold, and then we'll jump on to some stocks. And of course, the usual will be Nvidia, Apple, and Tesla. And I also added Bitcoin at the end. But first, let's jump to UJ. UJ, we can see the daily, or on the daily time frame, we see a major rejection, engulfing candle that pretty much engulfed two of the candles in half of a third day of a bullish run. And where that rejection is at is very key because I do have a major level right here at 153, 527, along with a trend line. I'm gonna put it in quotations, a counter trend, because I've been anticipating UJ to break this counter trend and make new highs, new all time. Well, I'm gonna say all time highs, but new highs in general for this time being. But with this big rejection on a daily, lets me know that it's probably not ready to do that. We just got out of a consolidation zone that's been going on from July to the beginning of October. So now we have to retest that consolidation zone. If we are able to find some type of support, then I know that we'd be making new highs here. But we just have to wait and see what it wants to do when it comes back down. We do have a gap here. UJ started the week off with a huge gap, and from there it's just been ripping to the upside. We possibly can see a retracement all the way down to fill the gap and then decide to go up. That is in the halfway territory of the consolidation. If I highlight the consolidation zone from, let me go back. If I do highlight the consolidation zone that I do have that started pretty much at this beginning up to here, you can see that if you look closely, you can tell that, let me highlight this. If you look closely, we have this gap, and the gap started right at the halfway point of this consolidation zone. So if UJ wants to go ahead and fall down all the way down to 148 and then start making some type of support, then for me, that gives me all the confirmation and confluence that UJ wants to continue up. Now, if we just go past, just rip past the gap and just start heading down and go below the consolidation, then UJ is going to be a little bit in trouble. And then I could see UJ jumping all the way down to 134 eventually. But since we're still carrying on this trend line, and we're kind of, the price is kind of going in between two trends right now. So we're just waiting to see what's going to break it. Maybe the news, maybe interest rate fluctuations or something of that nature may carry UJ up past those parameters that we do have. But for me personally, I'm just waiting to see. I'm waiting for this pullback. I do have a fib to anticipate where price can turn around and continue up. I do have a mini trend here as well. That could possibly be broken because it's not established yet. But we do have a lot of areas of where UJ can tend to turn around. So that's what I'm looking for on UJ for this week. GBP USD, that one kind of started off weak as well for the week. But here at the 132 500 area, it had a big bullish surge. So at this very moment, I'm still bearish on GU. We still have to break this major area of 132 500. It seems like it's holding up when you're looking at it from a support basis. Um, Technically, we're still in an uptrend though. If you want to look at this trend that we're still making higher highs and higher lows. However, it's weakening. If you look at this area, I'm big on head and shoulder patterns and things of that nature. But if you want to look at this point, you have a left shoulder, you have a head, you have a right shoulder. We dipped down, then we came up, we made another left shoulder, we made a head, we made another right shoulder. That's a double top, double head and shoulder. To me, that indicates a lot of bearish pressure going on here. All we have to do is break this neckline at this support level, and we can see GU drop down to at least 130. And from there, we'll be catching up to a major support, major psychological level, and a trend line. So with those confluences, we could see GU continue do the retracement and then continue up. But until then, I'm bearish for the sense. I think the retracement has not ended yet for GU. So for me, I do see, okay, so we do see this big bearish, this big bullish momentum, right? However, the last 4 hours we kind of lost a little bit of volume to end the week. If you look at the moving averages, we're still down. We're still in a downtrend for the moving averages. We start in a new week. We don't know how the gap is going to, we don't know if there's going to be a gap or not. However, what I'm looking at here, if I go on a lower time frame, you do see the, you do see the bullish momentum starting to fade a little bit on this, I guess you can say, mini resistance zone. So I'm looking for further rejection in this area. And if I can see the 1 hour EMAs flip over back down, that will indicate that we're going to still continue down to those support levels that I was talking about earlier. If I want, I could put a counter trend because eventually I do think this would be broken. But with this, even with this counter trend, you can see how price is already playing off of it. And then we're at a resistance zones too. So this would be a major indication of where we can see price go ahead and start heading down. Now, if price wants to go ahead and pass this resistance zone as well as this counter trend line that we do have, we can start seeing GU continue up, and we can possibly see it go up to the 135 mark based off of that alone. But like I said, I'm still kind of bearish on GU. So we do have a little bit of time to see what that wants to do. Now, GJ, we're going to go to GBP JPY. This one's a little bit tricky. I'm not really wanting to touch GJ yet, just because it's not making up its mind of the direction of what it wants to do. But we do have the same thing that happened with UJ. We had a major rejection, and we're right at a trend line, a major trend, and we're right at a major resistance. However, if you can see how it's been moving since the beginning of the second quarter, we've been in a nice little uptrend, and we haven't broken that trend yet. So not in we do have a gap as well. So GJ, the same as UJ, started off with a tremendous gap, and now we're either going to come back down to fill the gap and then continue to head on up, or we're just going to hit that gap and just continue down, in which I think that could be a possibility for GJ. It's kind of hard to gauge now with if you're looking at the dollar, if you're looking at the pound, and you're looking at the yen. With those three, it's kind of hard to gauge which one is actually. For me, I think the dollar is going to be the strongest out of the three. And I always talk about the rock, paper, scissors method of combining those three currencies. You have a better indication of finding some type of economic divergence between two of them at least, if you know which one's going to be the strongest out of the bunch and which one's going to be the weakest. And you want to go ahead and trade those. If you're looking at the dollar being the strongest and possibly the yen, possibly the pound being the weakest out of the three, then I want to go to GU and I want to go ahead and trade GU and make sales on it because I know the dollar is the strongest out of the three. So going looking at GJ in general, we have rejection at a major zone. We haven't flipped on the EMAs yet, so we're still technically okay. But just the area that it's at that is rejecting on, this is where I'm concerned at for GJ. So to me, it shows that the yen is picking up strength. I could be wrong on the whole dollar being the strongest, because from indications, if we're looking at how the week is ending, you could make the case that the yen may be the strongest out of all of them. So that's why I have it second right now. But Let me go back to UJ. UJ, if we look at the Heikin-Ashi candles, you would notice that we do have a nice, you can call it like a doji, which it to me is an indication that it's wanting to go down. If we look at the weekly though, the weekly it tells a different story. The weekly is a nice bullish momentum candle. Even if I take it off the Heikin-Ashi and go back to the Japanese candlesticks, you can see that even though the week ended with a nice wick, it still has the momentum to continue up, and we're still above the EMAs. So for me, that's why I think the dollar's stronger, and then second the yen, and then third is the pound. So if you look, even if you look at the pound, look at the weekly for the pound, we're about to flip on the EMAs. We did a bearish candle. We are wicking on the support. The support does show a little bit of strength, but I feel like it could be weakening here over time. So that's how I feel. And I'm just going to go ahead and continue my bias like that and just look for certain trades based off of the trend that it's providing. So now we can go to gold. If you look at gold, as I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, few weeks, gold is just continuing up. It's just going to continue up. There's still no signs of weakness on gold. This is solid. It's still pricing above the EMAs. There's no definite pullback. If you look at the daily, you see maybe one day here, one day there of bearish activity. And then once it does that, it picks back up and and you see buyers just coming in. So the stop, there's no stop for gold. There's really not. Now, the only thing when you're at all-time highs, you don't have anything to go off of when it comes to resistance. So you have to make psychological levels. Everybody looks at 4,000 as a psychological level, 4,500 as a psychological level, and then we have all the way up here 5,000. That's a major psychological level. So if gold want to continue to rip up, we have to wait till it gets to 4,500 to see some type of pullback. Or if it wants to exceed 4,500, then we have to wait till 5,000 to find another, which I feel like eventually gold will get to 5,000. I don't know how it's going to get there, but it will get there. But once it gets there, I feel like that's when it's going to kind of cool off. We're going to see some type of resistance, some type of full pullback, some type of collective take profit to where then we'll start seeing some type of bearish pressure. But until then, gold, if you want to go on a lower time frame and find buying opportunities on gold, you definitely can, because here you can start making your case for um, many many supports and many resistance. You'll see a little bit more structure on the lower time frame. So if I start my fib from the low to the high, we already retrace to the 50% retracement, and we're already heading up. So we're about it to me 4,100, 4,160, 4,240. Those are the two key points that I'm looking at for gold. Gold is a definite buy. We're already about to break the counter trend line, so it's a given. The only thing that I could say that could possibly derail that is if we start the week off with a gap to the downside. With even with the gap to the downside, we still have a trend and a major support. So to me, it just makes a bigger counter trend to where eventually that's just going to be broken, and we're just going to continue to head up. So, um, putting this mini resistance at 40.45, you see price break through that. We're gonna still make new all-time highs, but for me, I'm definitely bullish on gold. So let's go to Nvidia. Nvidia, we had a nice retracement, I guess. Pullback. I know there was news on Friday, Trump putting 100% tariffs on China and on chip making goods and things of that nature. That seemed to put the stock market down on a bearish path. However, I know that caused a lot of panic and things of that nature. But if you look at structure, if you look at it from a structure standpoint, nothing's been broken. We're still in the uptrend. We just had a major pullback, and that's all that it's been. If you look at Nvidia's case, you do have these EMAs. Um, we do still have a nice little trend where we had stopped the week off, and we do have a support. Not saying that Nvidia is going to stop at this point and continue up. I do think that we may have a little bit more of a pullback, but we do have a major trend as well below this one. So if Nvidia if Nvidia decides it wants to continue a pullback, I do have a level of 171 to where we can start seeing some type of consolidation and some type of move for making that price point a support to where, excuse me, to where we can continue to the upside. But so Nvidia, like I said, for the last few weeks, that same thing that I was saying about gold, Nvidia is just continuing to go up, continuing to go up. And we're making new highs here. But I do see some type of bearish pressure. We already we already filled a gap that was here last week. We already filled that, and we're still continuing down. But 170, 171 is a nice support level. We did break a consolidation. We do go back to August, the beginning of August, we had a consolidation technically here. When we broke that consolidation point, the red right here is pretty much the support. We have to have some type of support in order for us to continue up. Now, if we want to break back down to the consolidation, then that's where NVIDIA may be having some problems and continue down. We do have a major support level at 140, but I don't think Nvidia will be heading that far down. But if it does break the 171 mark, I can see it heading on down further, which will be good for sales if you want to look at that. Continuing on, we have Apple. Apple, I've always been saying I was a big um, I really liked Apple and its movement. Like I said since the beginning of these videos, I thought Apple was going to rip back up to 250, 260, and since then it has. But now that it's gotten there, we see major rejection. We have technically a double top. So we're still in an uptrend technically, but we definitely are looking at a nice pullback for Apple. Apple does have a nice support at 240 that could keep it um, at bay. I think Apple will get to 240, but from there, we just have to see if it's going to develop some type of support from there and then continue up. But Apple did its run, it did its move that I thought it was going to do. So now I just want to wait and see what it wants to do from here. Because right now, I'm not too sure with Apple. But it's going to have to come down a little bit more in order for it to make some new highs. And that's just my opinion. So I may have to fall back on Apple for a little bit. And then let's go to Tesla. Tesla is kind of the same. It kind of met up with its all-time highs at around 480, and then it started doing like a nice rejection. We do have a major trend line, but it's way away from that trend line. So we can see Tesla fall back even more to the 400, 380, 360 mark. Those are price points that I see Tesla can fall down to. It does have earnings on the 22nd of October. And from there, depending on the news, I know they had good quarterly numbers when it comes to deliveries of Teslas. So that could be good for the business. However, also the full self-driving mode update that it came out with, I know it's been getting some pretty good reviews. And I know a lot of investors are waiting for the the full self-driving mode where you don't even have to drive. And then it has the robots that is coming out and things of that nature. So a lot of news ahead that could definitely change the trajectory of Tesla at the end of the day. So me, I'm still completely bullish on Tesla. However, we can see a nice pullback all the way down to 380, 350 at the lowest. And then from there, we can start seeing it push back up to make new all-time highs. But for right now, it's looking like we're seeing a little bit of a sell-off on Tesla. So you'll just be careful and look at that. Bitcoin was all the way up to 126,000, and then from there we just started seeing this major sell-off on Bitcoin. we dropped all the way down to about 110, actually below. We dropped down to about $107,000. So that's about almost a $17,000 dip in like 2 days. So right now where we're at on Bitcoin, we are at a major support level and we're at a trend line. So from here, I think we can start seeing Bitcoin continue to head up. Even though we had this major bearish pressure momentum, I think this is where it stops. We're going to start seeing some type of support being made, some bullish activity going on at this area. And then from here, I can see Bitcoin easily continuing to drop, continue to go up and act like this drop was nothing. This is a perfect area for Bitcoin to continue to go up. So for me, I like where Bitcoin is at. As long as it stays above 108, I think it would be fine. 108 is about the lowest that I would want to see it continue to go back down. We, like I said last week, it already kind of like, you see the wick on the 4 hour, it already hit below, but I think that was just to kind of get, if you had stop losses right here, if you had stop losses right here, you would have gotten taken out. And that's what I think this particular daily candle did. And now here we're starting to develop some type of bullish accumulation. If you look at the Heikin Ashi, we're staying above the support, we're staying above the trend line. The only thing that we're waiting for now, we can drop down to the 1 hour, 2 hour. All we're waiting for is the MAs to cross and continue to make some type of bullish structure, whether it's a double bottom or a inverted head and shoulders. And from there, that's when I would like to see, that's when I would determine Bitcoin to continue up. But that's all that I do have for the week. Again, I appreciate everything. Y'all have a good week.